When most people think of Shu Kai, they picture the dazzling star with his sharp looks, unforgettable roles, and polished presence on screen. But on one strange night, far away from the flashing cameras and red carpets, Shu Kai found himself in a situation no one could have ever imagined. It was not a film set, not a scripted drama, but reality, a midnight train ride that would leave fans and onlookers speechless, questioning if what they had seen was real or just another well-orchestrated illusion. The story begins on an ordinary evening in Beijing. The city buzzed with its usual rhythm, taxis darting across streets, neon lights illuminating the skyline, and thousands of fans scrolling endlessly through their phones, looking for the latest updates on their favorite star. Shu Kai had been spotted earlier in the day leaving a studio, looking exhausted yet calm. Nothing about his demeanor gave away the storm that was about to unfold. By midnight, whispers began circulating across social media that Shu Kai was seen boarding a midnight train, heading out of the capital. The question immediately burned in everyone's mind: why? This wasn't a luxury ride, nor was it part of a publicity stunt. This was an old-fashioned sleeper train, one that most celebrities of his stature would never even consider stepping onto, especially not alone, without a team of bodyguards or assistants. The moment photos surfaced online of Shu Kai dressed down in a simple hoodie, cap pulled low, slipping through the station gates with nothing but a single backpack, the internet exploded. It was bizarre, surreal, and unexplainable. But the true shock wasn't just that he boarded the train, it was what happened during that ride. According to witnesses, Shu Kai's presence was both commanding and haunting. One passenger recalled glancing down the dimly lit aisle of the train carriage and doing a double-take, convinced their eyes were deceiving them. There, sitting quietly by the window with his hood slightly lifted, was Shu Kai. His reflection on the glass mirrored a face that looked both tired and heavy with thoughts, as if he was running from something far larger than the city lights he had just left behind. The atmosphere inside that train carriage was unlike anything ordinary. Passengers described how the air felt charged, as though an invisible tension filled the narrow aisles. Every small sound, the squeak of the wheels on the rails, the soft clatter of cups from the train attendant, felt amplified. People couldn't help but steal glances at him, their curiosity almost unbearable. Some even tried to approach, but something in Shu Kai's expression stopped them. It wasn't arrogance or coldness, it was something else. Something unreadable. What truly shocked fans came later, when a blurry video surfaced online. Filmed secretly by a fellow passenger, the clip showed Shu Kai in the dead of night, long after most passengers had fallen asleep. He was standing in the narrow passageway of the train, gazing out into the darkness of the countryside rushing past. The faint glow from the overhead lights illuminated his profile. His lips moved as though he was speaking to someone, except there was no one else there. The video only lasted a few seconds, but those seconds ignited endless theories. Who was he talking to? Was he rehearsing lines? Or was it something far deeper, more personal? The fan who recorded it swore they heard him whisper, "I can't keep this hidden forever." Within hours, hashtags about Shu Kai's midnight train ride trended across every platform. Some fans believed he was escaping something, perhaps even making a symbolic journey to leave behind the weight of his fame. Others speculated he was on his way to meet someone important in secret, someone who couldn't be reached through the usual glitz and glamour of his world. The ride itself became stranger as accounts poured in from other passengers. One described how the train suddenly slowed down in the middle of nowhere, far from any station. The carriage lights flickered, and in that moment, Shu Kai stood up and walked towards the connecting door between carriages. A few people followed with their eyes, watching him vanish into the darkness between compartments. For 10 minutes, he was gone. When he returned, his face carried a look of intensity, as if he had just made a life-altering decision. Another passenger claimed they overheard him on a hushed phone call. His voice, deep but trembling, carried through the paper-thin walls of the train. Words like promise, danger, and "I'll do it my way" echoed in fragments, leaving everyone who caught those whispers desperate for answers. The most spine-chilling part came from a witness who swore they saw Shu Kai slip a folded piece of paper between the cushions of his seat before disembarking. That same passenger, curious and trembling with curiosity, checked the seat once the train reached its stop. The note was gone. Someone had taken it, or maybe Shukai had returned to claim it before anyone else could. By the time the train reached its final destination, Shukai had vanished as mysteriously as he had arrived. No paparazzi were waiting, no fans lined the platform. It was as if he had melted into the night, leaving behind only questions, theories, and a trail of whispers that refused to fade. What made the entire incident so unforgettable wasn't just the secrecy but the symbolism. A midnight train, long associated with escape, transition, and destiny, felt almost too perfect for Shukai's unexpected journey. Was it a metaphor? Was he sending a message to someone, or perhaps to his fans? Back in Beijing, his team remained silent. No official statements, no clarifications. That silence only fueled the frenzy. For weeks, fans dissected every angle of the story. Some claimed the midnight ride was connected to a hidden project, a drama or film with themes so close to reality that Shukai had chosen to live it for inspiration. Others insisted it was personal, an escape to protect a secret relationship or to confront something from his past. The theories grew wilder. Some said he had met with someone at one of the rural stops, a childhood friend, a lost love, maybe even a family member kept away from the spotlight. Others argued the entire journey was an unscripted cry for freedom, a rare moment where the actor shed the layers of fame and lived as an ordinary man, if only for a few hours. But one thing everyone agreed on: the midnight train ride changed the way people saw Shukai. He was no longer just an idol, no longer just a star. He became a mystery, a man with secrets and shadows, someone whose story went far deeper than the glossy covers and bright lights. Months later, interviews with Shukai brought no closure. When asked directly about the midnight train, he simply smiled faintly and said, "Some journeys are not meant to be explained. They're just meant to be taken." That single sentence was enough to reignite the obsession, leaving fans to wonder whether they would ever know the truth or whether the mystery itself was the truth. The midnight train ride was not just a journey through the countryside. It was a journey through silence, secrets, and revelations. For those who witnessed it, it felt like stumbling into a scene of a movie that blurred the line between reality and performance. For fans, it became a story that would be retold countless times, a moment forever etched in the mythology of Shukai. The image of Shukai slipping onto a midnight train with nothing but a backpack was already enough to send the internet spiraling, but the details that kept emerging made the story feel more like a gripping movie scene than real life. Fans weren't just shocked, many were absolutely obsessed, digging into every witness account and piecing together fragments of that unforgettable night. Witnesses on the train described how Shukai deliberately chose the most inconspicuous seat, by the window, halfway down the carriage, where shadows from the dim lights fell across his face. He kept his hood pulled low, but even in his simplest disguise, there was no mistaking him. His aura gave him away, and passengers who looked too long felt a strange chill, as though he wasn't just another traveler heading out of Beijing but someone carrying a story too heavy to hide. One passenger swore that when Shukai sat down, he didn't scroll through his phone like everyone else. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small leather notebook. He opened it slowly, flipping through its worn pages. At one point, he stopped and pressed his hand against one page for several long seconds, as if it contained something that anchored him. From where they sat, they couldn't see what was written, but they could see his fingers trembling ever so slightly. Then came the first shocking moment. As the train rattled deeper into the countryside, the lights flickered. Some said it was nothing more than a common electrical glitch. But for those who happened to be watching Shukai, the flicker seemed almost cinematic. In that split second of darkness, a passenger sitting across from him swore they saw him lift his head and smile faintly, as if acknowledging something unseen. When the lights steadied again, he was staring out of the window, his expression unreadable. Later in the night, when most passengers had drifted to sleep, Shukai made his way to the narrow passageway between the carriages. That was when another passenger captured the blurry, now viral video of him standing alone, whispering into the dark window as the train sliced through endless fields. The haunting part wasn't just his whisper, it was the way he pressed his palm to the glass, his breath fogging up the window, before leaning his forehead against it. He looked like a man confessing to the night. The words caught on video, "I can't keep this hidden forever," spread across the internet like wildfire. Was he speaking about his career, his private life, or something fans could never imagine. Another unforgettable scene came from the dining car. Around 2 a.m., Shukai quietly entered and ordered only a cup of tea. The attendant, stunned but professional, tried not to react, though her hands trembled as she poured. Those who were awake claimed Shukai didn't sit at a table like the others but stood near the window, sipping slowly, staring at the moonlit countryside. At one point, another passenger gathered the courage to greet him. They expected him to ignore them, but instead, he turned, offered a small polite nod, and said softly, "Strange how the night feels louder when you're far from the city." That simple line struck everyone who overheard it. Was it a casual observation, or a deeper reflection of his inner state? For fans who later heard about it, the sentence became legendary, dissected in fan forums and reposted endlessly as if it were a hidden poem. But the most mysterious part of the midnight ride happened when the train unexpectedly slowed down between two small towns. Witnesses said the carriage shook lightly as the wheels screeched against the rails. The lights dimmed again, casting eerie shadows across the cabin. People grew restless, some peering out of the windows to see only endless fields. And that was when Shukai stood up. Without hesitation, he walked down the aisle toward the connecting door. Several passengers froze, watching in silence as he disappeared into the next carriage. Minutes ticked by. Then 5 minutes. Then 10. Whispers spread in hushed tones. Where had he gone? What was he doing in the middle of nowhere? When he finally returned, his posture had changed. His walk was slower, heavier, and his face carried an expression that passengers later described as a mix of relief and sorrow. One passenger sitting nearby swore they saw him slip something, a folded note, into the crack of his seat cushion before settling down again. But by the time the train reached its destination, the note had vanished. Who took it? Did Shukai retrieve it before leaving? The mystery deepened, and theories spread wildly online. Even the way Shukai left the train was unforgettable. While most passengers scrambled with luggage and noise, Shukai moved calmly, almost silently, slipping into the crowd as if he'd been rehearsing the act of disappearing. No bodyguards, no managers, no flash. By the time fans realized he had truly boarded and ridden that midnight train, he was already gone, leaving nothing but fragments of memory and scattered whispers among those lucky enough to share that eerie journey. For the fans who obsessed over every detail, the midnight train ride was no longer just a late-night trip. It became a living riddle, a piece of Shukai's life that blurred the line between reality and fiction. Every flicker of light, every whispered word, every mysterious action carried weight. To some, it felt like Shukai was sending a message not just to one person, but to everyone willing to look closer. The train ride itself, with its haunting atmosphere and unexplained moments, became more than an incident, it became a story. A story fans still retell with chills in their voices, as if recalling a ghost tale rather than a celebrity sighting. And perhaps that's exactly why the memory lingers, because for once, Shukai stepped out of the world of glossy perfection and into something raw, secretive, and shockingly human. The midnight train ride may have ended, but the questions it left behind still rattle like wheels on iron tracks. What was Shukai running from? Who was he speaking to in the darkness? And most haunting of all, what truth was he trying so hard to keep hidden? Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more jaw-dropping stories about your favorite stars. Your support means everything.